Well, hello. I'm glad you could join us today. If this is your first time watching us, I'd like to invite you to get some paints and canvas and paint with us. And if you come back to see us again, I'd like to thank you for watching, and I hope you're enjoying the show. Today, I think that we're going to do something that's really nice, painting with a bright blue sky. You know, it's really ugly outside today, and so I need something like that. So to start out, I'm going to go into a little bit of phthalo blue. Phthalo blue is a little bit different than the blue we have been using. It's a little bit lighter, and it's great for making these really bright blue skies. We just want to load the brush up a little bit, not too much, very small amount, because the blue is very strong. We're going to go up and just at the top of our canvas start making little egg strokes to make a sky. You usually want things to get lighter as you go towards the horizon, so very dark up here, and as we come down it's going to mix with the liquid white that I've already applied to the canvas. That's what I was doing when the show started, was finishing blending that out. It's automatically going to get lighter as we come down, and in this case we do want that. That's one of the main reasons I like this technique, is because it's so easy to make very pretty skies. And just keep coming down, doing egg strokes. When I say egg strokes, it's just the way I'm moving, just forward, back, just making little egg strokes. You don't want to blend this all perfectly, because you know, if you make these little X's, you have little places where you have things like this in your sky where it looks like maybe little clouds whispering around really far off in the distance. Maybe a place where an airplane flew across here. We're just going to keep coming down, and you know, depending on what you're painting, you can come down further, but we can pretty much stop right here if we know the horizon's going to go along here. And I know today that I'm going to have a little water in this painting. So to do the water, you want to do vertical lines straight across. So I'm going to go back into some of the blue. And again, things get lighter as they go towards the horizon, so you want it darker down here. And we're just going to make some blue lines coming across like this. They're a little ugly right now, but we'll come back and blend them. You just want to make sure that you keep these lines basically straight. They don't have to be perfect, but you know, if you have a bunch of slanted lines where you're painting your water, it's going to look weird to you when you get done. And you know, most of this we'll probably end up painting over anyway, so it's just not very important. If you have a lot of paint still left in your brush after doing the sky, it's a great way to clean some of that paint off. As you may have noticed, some of the things we're doing here on the show today are going to be a little bit different than the things we have been doing. Thanks to our sponsor, Blick Art Materials, we've gotten a new canvas, some new materials, new paint, a new easel, so everything's brand new. We're ready to go. So if you happen to go into the Blick Art Materials stores in Portland or Beaverton, be sure to stop by and thank them for their support if you enjoyed the show. Alright, now we're just going to blend across lightly. The reason I left that little white section in the middle is because when we're done, we want this to kind of look like a sheen on the water. And we do blend across it, but we don't want to fill it in completely. We just want it to stay shiny. Just coming across to remove all the brush marks. And you can do the same a little bit in the sky. We don't want to get rid of all this this nice white area we've created by using the egg strokes, but we do want to make it look a little more uniform and blend across. Alright, it looks like maybe a little bit more in here. Sometimes you'll see me like looking off in this direction. We got a little monitor here so I can see what I'm doing while I'm painting and see how it looks to all of you. So if you ever see me looking off, it's not because I'm just going crazy and staring off into space. It's because we got stuff over here. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is go into some of our titanium white. and just load up the brush with it, because we're going to do some clouds here. And we're just going to come across and just rub kind of hard and make little circles. We don't want to stay in one place, and we'll reload the brush frequently so we get lots of paint on the canvas. You don't want to stay in one place too long, just keep the brush moving around. Maybe a little more over here on this side. More paint. And as you'll notice, I haven't washed any of the brushes yet. Usually I'll try to use the same brush. Like I'll use the one that I just used to blend the sky with to kind of work out the bottom of these clouds. The tops of them, we want them to basically stay intact, so we don't want to blend those. Just blend the bottoms. Alright, now I'm going to clean the brush, and to do that, I've got a coffee can here filled with paint thinner, and I have a little rack that I use to brush the paint off on the bottom of it. It's just a little grate with a thin piece of wire. Alright, I get off the excess thinner, and then I'll just beat the brush like that. Final steps, to take a paper towel and just wipe it off, get all the excess thinner and color out. Alright, now that we've got a dry, clean brush here, we're going to come back and we're going to fluff these clouds up, just like this. Just a few hairs of the brush and just lift up on them. And we'll get some little stringy things here above the clouds, but that's okay. We'll come back and blend those later. It'll just help make the clouds look more fluffy. Almost doing circular strokes, and then we'll come back across with just a few hairs and blend these out. You don't want to blend them too much, or these clouds will just disappear. But that's good. That's good to know if you're not happy with the clouds you've done. You can just go back and blend over them. That's all we got to do. Blend them right into the sky if you don't like them. I've actually done that here before on the show. I did some clouds I didn't like, and we got rid of them real fast. Alright, I think today I'm going to paint a mountain. One of my favorite things to paint is big snow-covered mountains, because when I moved out to Oregon, it always amazed me to go see these mountains. So, and you can see them off in the distance on the horizon on clear days, and I just love that. We're going to mix together a little Van Dyke brown, Prussian blue, and alizarin crimson to make the base color for our mountain. I'm going to wipe off the palette knife with a paper towel. Alright, now we're just going to cut across this, and on our palette knife we're just going to get a thin little roll of the color we just mixed up. And we'll just decide where we want our mountain to be. And I think in my painting I'm going to put the mountain right here. And just like when we did the clouds, right now we're not worried about all the inside of the mountain. We're just worried about making a nice outside edge. We can worry about that later. Just want to make sure our outside edge is crisp and defined. The rest of it we can just spread some color in here. It's not a big deal. We're going to blend it out later. Maybe right here I'm going to have another little mountain sticking up. Same thing. We're just worried about the outside edge, not the inside. Alright, I'm going to take one of my 2-inch brushes. And for these mountains, I'm just going to kind of drag them and blend them out. We do want to try to leave that edge. We don't want to disturb that. But the rest of it, we'll just drag across. And this is also a good way to decide which mountains I want in the front. Like I want this mountain that I've painted first to be in the front, so I'll just drag it over this other mountain I made. Just drag the color down, just like that. We moved a mountain in the painting. I wish we could do that in real life. Alright, we're going to pull the rest of this paint on the inside here, and the basic direction the mountain's going. Just follow the angles of your mountain. The lay of the land, they call it. But we're going to go back over this and do some blending. Alright. There we go. Looks like we just kind of got some mountains floating in the sky. The reason I mixed in the crimson is to give these mountains a little bit of a purple tint. You know, I seem to remember some kind of song with the Purple Mountain Majesties. That's what we're going for here. Alright. Next we're going to take some of the titanium white on our palette. Just spread it out real thin. And wipe off the excess. And I'm going to cut across just a thin little roll of it. And as you can see right here, we got it just on the tip of our knife. And now we want to paint the snow on the mountains. You want to start up at the tip and just kind of lightly go down using no pressure at all. If you put too much pressure, it's going to look like you've iced a cake, and I'm definitely guilty of doing that a few times. But just no pressure, and the paint should break as you drag it downward. Alright, get another little roll of paint. So it's okay to reload this several times. You don't have to do it all at once. Another little cut of it here. You just drag this down, let it break how it wants to. No pressure. And this is the part where you decide where you want all the little projections. Like maybe I want a little projection right here in my mountain. Do the same thing. Just no pressure at all. I can't stress that enough. I know I've said it about 5 times, but if you put pressure down, it's going to look like you iced a cake, and that's not what you want. Just want it to look like little rocks and things going down the side of your mountains. Alright, now we got that done. I'll take a little bit of that white and just mix it with a very small amount. My phthalo blue. Very small amount, maybe a little bit of the brown. Just a little bit of a darker color. This is where we're going to make the highlights for our mountain. We're going to mix it up pretty good, but we don't want to overdo it. We don't want to create a solid color. We want to leave this marbled. Alright, we'll do the same thing on this one, except instead of going that way, we're going to come down the side. You know, I just went out of my mountain and looked ridiculous, but we can always fix mistakes like that. So I'll just come back and redefine that edge. Makes it look a little rocky there. Alright, same thing here. Got a little bit more of that color. Drag it down. And you'll want to make sure that you leave a little bit of this color and the other color until you're done with the mountain, because you're going to want to come back and clean it up some. You know, if you can't catch everything when you're watching the show on television, don't worry, because you can always go back and check them out on our YouTube channel. We've gotten a great response from the videos we put up so far, and I always love hearing from people and seeing some of their original artwork. Just the other day, I had a lady contact us on the Salem Painter Facebook, and she was telling me about a mural she did on her wall, and she showed me some pictures of it, and it just amazes me some of the things people can do. And there's artists out there that just do things I could never imagine doing, and I always always love to see that. Alright, now that we got that done, we're gonna clean off that same brush again. I've been cleaning off this brush a lot, even though I have a couple of other 2-inch brushes here, because this one is a really soft natural bristle brush, and natural bristles are always best for this technique. Of course, I made a lot of great paintings using cheap, just dollar store brushes, so don't feel like you have to have a special brush. Just the important thing is to just get started, put color on the canvas. All right, what I'm doing now is I'm tapping along the bottom of this mountain. And what this is going to do, when I blend it out, it's going to make it look diffused. It's going to make it look like we've got some fog and pollution, smog and stuff down here. And we're going to lift up lightly and following the lay of the mountain, just in the direction the mountain goes. We're not too worried about this. Just bring it up. And then we're going to gently blend out the bottom. And we'll do this until the mountain just looks like it's here floating in the sky. Alright. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to do some foothills that are way off in the distance in front of this mountain. So I'm just going to take some of that color that I just highlighted the mountain with. I'm just going to start tapping. Just tapping. Very light. We don't want it to stand out from the mountain that much at all. Maybe I'll mix a little blue in with it. Make it kind of look like the sky color. A little bit more of that. Using very little paint. This is going to be very far off in the distance. A lot of times I say on the show that a thin paint will stick to a thick paint. One way to get paint to be a little bit thicker, besides starting with a thick paint, is to use a very thin layer of it. Because the more it spreads out on the canvas, the easier it's going to be to paint on top of. And by thin, I don't mean how much paint you have on the canvas. I mean the actual consistency of it. Like if it's like butter, and then you have something that's like water, the paint that's thin as water is going to stick to the paint that's as thin as butter. That's a good way to describe it, I think. All right, now we're going to come along here and just lift up on these little areas we created. We can barely see them, but we know they're there, and they'll look good when the painting's finished. These are going to look like little trees way off in the distance. You know, I don't really think that's dark enough to stand out, so I'm going to come along with a little blue to put in there. Just follow that same line. Alright, we're just going to lift up, same way. And that stands out a little bit more against the mountain. That's what we want. Painting is less about the colors you're using and more about the contrast you create. So now we got that done, I'm going to wipe some of that color off on a napkin. I'm just going to tap along the bottom of these trees. Alright, now we're going to come forward in the painting. Maybe do a little darker color. We will use some of that color we did for the undercolor on the mountains. And the same thing there. I'm going to wipe it off and just come pull up a little bit on this. Just making little foothills way off in the distance. And just pull these straight up, because if you pull them to the side, it'll look like you got a hurricane coming on. You know, all your trees are blowing to the side at about 1,000,000 miles an hour. That'll look strange. Okay, now finally, I'm going to take a darker color and just come forward and just fill in the canvas all the way across. And we're not worried too much about how this looks. We're going to overpaint it with some highlights. But as you come forward towards the horizon, things start to look darker. And that's very important here. Maybe we'll come pull some of that down, make some reflections. So, you know, if it gets a little bit taller, like say if we got our water, we want it to look like it's coming along here, we'll start wherever the water line's going to be. So in that way, if we got a lake going on, we can make it look a little bit rounded. But the same as with your trees, you want to make sure you reflect this basically straight down. If it goes up higher in some places, like I think we'll do that here, make it go a little bit higher. And we'll pull it down a little bit further in those places. Once again, pull these up. Looks like we got some trees here, just straight up. Alright, and where we made that shadow color, just gonna gently pull across. Just a couple of hairs of the brush. We don't want to destroy this, we just want to make it kind of blend in. See, I went out of the line a little bit here, so we'll do just like we were talking about with those clouds. If we don't like something, just get rid of it. We'll blend it in. And that's what we're doing here. Just make it part of the color of the water. All right. Just continue pulling down here. Once again, just very lightly, a couple of hairs, just go across. A lot of this will be covered up, so it's not very important anyway. All right, the next thing we're going to do, I'm going to get our palette knife and get some Van Dyke brown, maybe make a little land coming across here. We don't want this to come straight down, so we'll always be sure we keep it going at an angle. Just follow the lay of the land. Since we got a lake coming around here, maybe keep it going in this direction. Because if not, it's just going to look like you got a little cliff here if you pull straight down. And, you know, I'm going to stop right there because I already know that in this painting I'm going to have a big tree right here. It's going to be covering up that, so definitely not too worried about it. Alright, we're going to take the same palette knife, mix a little bit of our white in with our brown, maybe a little bit of yellow ochre, cut that off there. Just mix it up to make a highlight color for the ground back here. Cut a little bit of that off. We're just going to let this go right across like we did on the mountain color. We're not putting any pressure, we're just letting the canvas take what it wants. Alright. And I'm going to go back and put some more darker bushes that stick up over this a little bit. Put a few that go down over the bank that we got. We don't want it to just look like it's floating over all the bushes in the background. And then I'm going to take a little bit of our yellow. Maybe we'll take a little bit of liquid white, mix in with some of the yellow. That ensures that it's thin and will stick to this paint. We'll just put some highlights back here. This is very far away, so we're not going to see too much. We just want a little bit to indicate that there's some bright color going on in this. Maybe a little yellow ochre, change it up a little bit. And maybe a little Indian yellow, has more of an orange tint to it. Oh, that's very bright, I like that. Bush back there. Okay, next I'm going to take a fan brush and just take maybe a little bit of the Van Dyke brown, mix it with a little bit of green, just mix it right on the brush. This is not a big deal here, we're just getting some dark color. And maybe I got a tree that lives right here. So we'll just paint him in with the corner of our fan brush, just back and forth. We're not worried about a lot of detail here, because just like the stuff we painted in front of it, this is very far away, and we're not looking for great detail. We're just looking for indications of trees. Maybe another one right next to it. All right, we'll go out. Maybe there's one over here. Maybe the other trees didn't like him as much, so they made him live over there without him. A little bit taller. And you know, when you're doing this at home, if you really like these trees, you could just make a whole forest of them back here. But we're just going to do a few of them and move forward in the painting. Maybe one over here. This one probably will be covered up by the time the painting's finished anyway, but I'm going to put him in there because I know he's there. One more back here, way off in the distance. They'll probably also be covered up. That's okay. Alright, now the last thing I'm going to do is come back with my yellow colors that I had and just put a few of those reflecting into the water, wherever you think they would go. Where they go is not very important. That's up to you, and it doesn't have to be perfect. Alright, and we're just gonna take a couple of hairs and pull down, clean dry brush. We don't want to destroy these things, we just want to make them look watery. And just very lightly come across just a couple of hairs. Alright, now it's time to come forward in the painting. I'm going to mix together a little Van Dyke brown, a little Prussian blue, which is a darker blue, and just come down and make a little projection of land right here. Just you know, kind of bend your brush so it looks like little grasses and brush and things sticking up. And then we're just gonna pull this down. And we'll make the same basic shape on the top in the water as we do above the water. As I've said before, this does not have to be perfect. It's all about what looks good to you. And again, we're going to go back into our yellow and start highlighting some of these places. You can even mix a little green with this. As you can see, this yellow is picking up the color underneath. It's automatically getting darker as we come down with it, and it's picking up some of the green. Looks like a really bright spring day, maybe a lot of flowers and things growing out there. You know, I love the spring. The only thing I hate about it is the pollen. It bothers me every year. But it's worth it. I'd take the pollen over the cold weather any day. Alright, I'm going to mix in a little yellow ochre. And we want to leave some of this dark area in here so it looks like we've got a lot of little bushes and things growing. Alright, I'm going to go back to my fan brush. I'm going to use my big one this time so I clean it out. Still have color on it from when we did the clouds earlier. And I just do that by rubbing it on the screen, the bottom of my thinner can, and just wiping it off on a paper towel. If there's still a little color left in it, it's okay, because this dark color, it's just going to completely cover up the color that was in there. Alright, we got this loaded up on both sides. Maybe, you know, wiggle it back and forth so we make sure we got a lot of paint in the brush. It gives it a good shape. And just like I said, we're going to cover up that tree. So we're going to start right here, just the corner of the brush, and just come down, laying in that tree however you think it would go. This is your tree. You can make it however you want it. There's no right way to do this. And right now it doesn't really matter what's going on here. We're just putting in some dark color because we're going to come back and highlight this tree in a few minutes. So just get the tree in there. Maybe make it a little thicker so it comes off the canvas some. I always like it when things go off the canvas. It makes them look more interesting. Plus, that's 1/4 of a tree that I don't have to finish painting. Alright, now we're going to do another one right here. Maybe we'll make that one a little bit shorter. Same thing, just back and forth. Corner of the brush. Painting over this nice mountain that we worked so hard to make. Sometimes you gotta do that though. Alright. Now that we got that, actually I'm going to go ahead and fill in the foreground a little bit. We'll come back and highlight those trees later. So we're going to go back into the blue, Van Dyke brown. I'm just going to start right here. And I want my land to come all the way across here. So I do want to make some bush shapes, but you know, if you wanted to, you could put this on with a paint roller. Basically, we just got to get some dark color down here so we have something to paint our nice highlights on. A little bit more of that. Just a lot of color. Really dark. You gotta have dark to have light, so you want to make sure that you keep some of these dark places for your shadows. And while we're making trees, I'm gonna throw my brush in the floor. While we're making trees, we're gonna go ahead and make a huge tree right here. Maybe right there. And just start coming down. And this we're going to need extra paint because there was thicker paint on the mountain, so it was pulling off some of the paint we were putting on there. You know, with a big tree like this, you almost might want to use the 2-inch brush instead of a fan brush, because this one's going to take so long to do with the fan brush. That's okay, we've got time. Got about 20 minutes left to paint, and there's been times when I've been rushed and I've done whole paintings in less time than that, so I'll make sure we get something down here. You know, I think that tree's big enough, so what we're going to do is put a little bit more land down here. Go back into the blue, Van Dyke brown, just start filling it in. That's the great thing about painting. We can always change our mind. We're not committed to anything until the painting's done. Well, except for a tree. If you start painting a tree right here, you got to finish that tree. All right. And I think now we're going to go ahead and highlight those trees like I was talking about. So first I'm going to wipe off the fan brush. I'm going to scrub it on the little wire screen in the bottom of my paint thinner can. And I'm going to wipe it off again. And this time we're going to wipe it off a little bit more than we did before, because now we're going into the green and yellow. Oh, speaking of which, if you ever want to make a really nice bright green, you can mix blue with your yellow, or even black. Black mixed with yellow will make a green color, and it's very pretty for making things like this. So we're just going to go in and just lightly tap, not type. What am I saying? But we're just going to lightly tap and leave some highlights. If you find you're having trouble getting your highlights to stick, then you can go back and add just a little paint thinner, or in this case I think we're going to use a little liquid white. The liquid white's good for it too, it thins it out. The only difference between that and paint thinner is that the liquid white will brighten your color a little bit because it's mixed with white, and you know, that's not always a bad thing. As you can see here, it's very bright and it's making this tree look interesting. You want to consider your light source. So like if your light's coming here, because you can see from the mountain the light shining on this side, you want things to be brighter on that side. And also things that are higher up are going to be brighter. So you know, when you're doing this, think about that. Put more highlights higher up. Alright, we're going to start here. Maybe a little more paint onto our brush. And because you're picking up some of the underpaint as you're coming down, so these highlights, they're going to be less bright as you come down with them. And that's fine, because things tend to be brighter higher up because the sun hits them more. And I'm going to come back through, get some of that yellow color we used before, and I'm going to put some of my highlights back in my bushes, because when I was doing these trees, I messed up some of that. You know? And that's very important to us. We want to keep that. All right. Now we're going to come highlight the other tree. Start way up here and just come down, highlight it. And again, this is getting darker as we're coming down. That's all right. If we need some brighter areas, we can come back and put more paint on, highlight again, until we feel like we got it right. come back just the same as I did on the other side. Maybe I'm gonna throw some bush highlights, cover up the foot of that tree. And we haven't started highlighting this side yet, so this is a perfect opportunity to do that. Just remember when you're making these bushes that they're all individual bushes. They're all separate. So you don't want to just go dabbing across the canvas. You want to make one bush and come down with it. All right, I'm going to clean off my brush. Wipe it off. Back into a little bit of that color. I like that one. Really bright yellow color. Maybe some orange over here. Just mixing with the color underneath makes a really pretty green color. Just remember to leave some of your dark areas in here. Don't want to cover it all up. You know what, let's do something crazy. Let's make a red bush right here. You know, if you look closely when you walk around in nature, a lot of times we just think, oh, green trees, green bushes, but there's all different colors, and they're very beautiful. Even blue, put a little blue in here, a blue bush. Mix a little bit of that with the yellow. Some that stick up over the others here. Alright, now I'm going to go back a little bit. Usually you want to complete what's further up in the painting before you move on, but I wanted to go ahead and start getting those bushes out of the way. So come back in here, put a little bank in there. We're doing it just the same as we did the first one. Just pulling down at an angle. And we go back into our highlight color we made before and just kind of lightly put it on there. Let the paint take what it wants. Let the canvas take what it wants. No pressure at all, just like we did the mountain. And something we didn't do earlier, I'm going to go ahead and do now. Let's take a little liquid white, put it down in our palette and spread it out really thin. We're just going to get a little row of that and just come across and make a water line. And normally we'll want to do this first so we make sure we don't mess up anything in front of it, but I can come back and put in that highlight. It's not a big deal. And if you don't like the water line you made, you can always come back and just rub over it again and it'll just disappear. In fact, I feel like the one I made up there is a little bit too thick, so we're going to come back in a second and show you how to do that. As I was telling you all earlier, if there's something you didn't catch, you can always go to our YouTube channel. Just search for the Salem Painter on YouTube, and it'll be the first thing that comes up. You can watch these episodes again and pick up anything that you missed. And as always, if you have any questions about anything we've done on the show, feel free to ask me. I try to get back to every question as quick as I can, and I'm happy to have helped a lot of people get started painting. And one thing I think the question I get asked the most is how to make certain techniques work. And most of the time, when someone can't get something to work, I found that it's because they're trying to do this technique with acrylic paints. With acrylic paints, you can do some amazing things, but I do not recommend doing this technique with acrylic paints. It doesn't seem to work out very well. Alright, we're gonna put maybe a little trail or a rock through here. I don't know what it is. We're just something to add some color to the painting, make it look interesting. Last time I tried to do one like this, it ended up looking like a log, and I like that too. Alright, so we got a little dark place here, and we're gonna highlight it. Maybe a little red, white, and brown, some of that color we did the rock highlight earlier, and mix it all together. And we'll just follow the land here. Maybe it'll look like a little path or something when we get done. Add a little bit of the darker color onto it. Alright, now we're going to go back into some of our colors we did on our bushes and just bring this into the painting. We don't want it looking like it's just floating out there above the bushes, so paint some that go over it, some that go above it. Alright, I'm going to wipe off my palette knife, and I'm going to get a little bit of the brown, the white, mix it together. A little more white. And we're going to put some trunks on the trees. So we'll just take a little cut of it, and just in a few places wherever you think you might see the trunk shining through, just go back and put it in. Maybe we need a little bit more brown for that. So I'm going to go back over it with a little bit darker color. And just kind of bring this around. And most of this is going to end up getting covered up anyway, because we're going to come back over it with highlights. It'll look good when you're done. Okay, now just come back in a few places, put highlights over them, especially covering up the edges. This one I didn't like too much, so I'm probably going to cover most of it up. Just all the different yellows together with the greens. Alright, and I'm going to take a step back and see what we've got. There's one more thing I want to do real quick. Didn't put any reflections in the water down here, so I want to reflect some of the bushes that we see in the painting. Again, these are not very important, just indications of reflections. We're just going to come down lightly, a few hairs of the brush. And then come across. down a little bit more. Came across a little too hard, left a lot of brush strokes there. And we're gonna clean that up by putting another water line in. So we'll just go get a little bit of that color, come back across, almost like we're trying to cut into the canvas. Alright, and I think we're gonna call that a finished painting. So the last step here is to sign our painting. I have a lot of people asking me why I don't usually sign them. Well, usually I sign them on the back with the Sharpie marker, and I'll put the date and other identifying information so people can contact me in the future if they want. But I suppose it wouldn't hurt to sign it, so I'm going to try to do that. R there. And W. There we go. Well, I hope you've all enjoyed the show, and I hope that you'll join us next time. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. And thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.